Hi there, holding the pick and your first few chords. Imagine if you're watching this, you've just started your guitar journey, and I wish you all the best. It is a lot of fun. It's a lifetime of enjoyment, and what I aim to do is teach in a way that keeps everything fun, because the more fun you're having, the more you're just going to practice, and the better you'll get. It's all based on having fun. So what I'm going to do today is show you how to hold the pick, which probably isn't that fun really, but get you started with your first few chords. Just a few chords that aren't too hard to play, sound nice, and will get you started so that you can enjoy playing them and think, oh, this sounds good, and keep going, practice, having fun before we introduce some more chords and a few other things. So I'm going to be linking to another video or two probably in this. I've got a fairly elaborate video on beginning strumming. So rather than repeating all of that here, I'm going to just link to it. So it's very from the ground up beginner stuff on strumming. So once you know how to hold your pick, once you've got a few chords, I recommend going to that strumming video so that you can start to put a bit of rhythm into those few chords. I could have separated these into a video on how to hold the pick and one on your first few chords, but an entire video on how to hold the pick is probably overkill at this point. So I've put them both in one. We're going to learn how to hold the pick, and we're going to learn to strum our first few chords, play our first few chords. The other video will teach you to strum. Okay, the pick. First of all, picks come in all shapes and sizes, and there are thick ones and thin ones. Thin picks, I've never met a guitarist that uses a thin pick. I know that when you're recording guitar, they can have a specific purpose because they bring out more string and less of the tone body of the guitar. So if you want a particularly percussive sound when you're recording, they're good for that. But in general playing, I've always used thick picks. Everyone I've ever known has always used a thick pick. I remember seeing Tommy Emmanuel once telling me, telling whoever was watching the video to throw out every pick that isn't a thick pick. So if you're looking for my recommendation, get a thick pick. And by thick, I mean this is 1 mil. 1 mil picks are great. They're not like painfully thick, but they barely bend. They're strong. They're just what you want. But if you've got a thin pick or whatever, then stick with it. Go for it. Music's very subjective. You can do whatever you want. Here is my pick anyway. So when you hold it, the fundamental way, I'm going to adjust the mic as I go here so that I don't suddenly disappear in sound. As you go, what you do is you picture your finger like this, you curl it in like that, and you place the pick with the pointy bit out, kind of on the knuckle joint. See that? Bit of a curve in the finger, pick facing out with the sharp pointy bit facing out and the big loopy bit back on the finger. Then when you've done that, put your thumb on it. Now that isn't the perfect position yet. Put your thumb, hold it up like that. Now just kind of wriggle it around until it's somewhere nice and comfortable, where essentially you have this. If you can see there, I have a thumb and a finger kind of crossed over the pick. Now this will probably stick nicely. If I take my thumb off, see that? The pick is just kind of sitting there on that bent finger. Put the thumb on, get a bit of a wriggle until it feels comfortable. Happy days. That's pretty much how you hold a pick. Now see how much I've got sticking out? It looks like not all that much, but that's what you want, as opposed to this kind of thing. Reason being, when you play guitar, and at first it probably doesn't really matter because you're just getting on top of some chords and whatnot. But when you start playing notes and things, or even, whoa, I should have tuned this. I'm going to stop for a second and tune. Okay, back with one in tune guitar. I don't really do much in the way of editing, so you kind of get what you get in videos that I do where I pull up an out of tune guitar, I'll tune it and come back. So there you go. No no loss of professionalism here. Anyway, we're in tune now. And I think it's out of tune because last time I used this was the how to tune guitar video, and I probably purposely threw it all out. Anyway, neither here nor there. So now we've learnt how to hold the pick. We're going to learn our first chords. Now, first thing first, put the guitar down. We're going to learn to read a chord chart, which I'll put up right here. This is an example. In fact, this is the first chord you're going to learn, and it's a G chord. But you need to know how to make sense of this first, because that, if you've never looked at one of these before, probably doesn't make much sense. Although when you do learn it, you realize, oh, that makes perfect sense. Anyway, what you're looking at here is the top of your guitar neck, like that. So these lines that go up and down, the vertical lines, those are your strings. The lines that go horizontally, those are your frets, the metal bars, like that. So you can see you've got a picture of your neck. The thick line at the top is that. That's the nut, like that. Okay. Over the top of the nut on the chart, if you see an O, that means you hit that string with your pick, but you do not hold a note down on it. That's what they call an open string. So basically, if I hit open strings, it's doing that. It means I'm not holding down a note with my left hand. That's what the O over the top means. For that particular string, it's open. You don't actually hold a note down with your left hand. If you see an X over the top, which this one doesn't have, but the next one will, I'll show you them. If you see an X over the top, that means you don't want that string to come out. You don't want the sound of it to come out. Now, I've chosen my words carefully. I haven't said you don't hit that string, because that's not the way to get a guitar to sound great. What you'll find you actually do is you mute that string so you can hit it all you want, but no note is actually going to come out. Anyway, that's on the next chord. So for this first chord, we're going to just use this picture of our guitar neck. Now the circles in between the frets. Now, when you build a guitar, you call the metal bars frets. When you play guitar, you call the gaps in between them frets. So unless you're a budding young luthier, guitar builder, you're just going to learn it like this. The frets are the gaps in between, like that. So looking at this chart, if we want to know what we do on the first string, so the strings are labelled E, A, D, G, B, E to correspond from your thick string E, A, D, G, B, E, like that. On that E string, that circle is on the 3rd fret. So we hold down the 3rd fret, like that. Then the next string, the A string, the circle is on the 2nd fret. So we hold down the 2nd fret. The next two strings have the O above the nut. So we do hit them with our picking hand, but we hold down nothing with our left hand. They are open strings. Then the next one, the B, is 3rd fret, 1, 2, 3, just like on the chart. We hold that down. And exactly the same on the next one, 1, 2, 3. We hold that down. Now you may get confused because you've seen G elsewhere where the B string is an open string. It's not this one. The easiest way, they're both Gs, okay? They're both Gs. In fact, the reason you can see, for example, a G chord played multiple different ways on a guitar is because G has the notes G, B, and D in it. As long as you're only hitting however many multiples of those same 3 notes, you're playing a G chord. So when you play one, you're actually hitting multiple. So I'm hitting G, B, D, G, D, G. So I'm hitting 3 Gs, a B, and 2 Ds. If you hit 3 Gs, 2 Bs, and 1 D, or 1G, 2Ds, 3Bs. You get the idea. As long as you're only hitting multiples of G, B, and D, you are hitting a G chord. That's why you'll see different shapes for the same chord. And if your brain then goes, well, which one am I supposed to play? The answer is essentially, when you're starting out, it doesn't matter. Pick one, go with it. That's fine. Later on, when you get more advanced, you might want to be playing the exact same one that the person who wrote the song plays, you know, that sort of thing. There are differences, but for the time being, if you're playing the G with the two notes there, or you have the open B like it appears in some instructional things, either way it's a G chord. You can take your pick. The reason I'm showing it to you with the two is because of the second chord we're going to learn. But let's do this one first. We've established what notes we're holding down. We've established what notes are open strings. We've established there are no strings we're supposed to stop coming out. The only next question is, which finger do we use to hold down which note? Let me put the guitar up here again, adjust the mic a little. Okay, so if you decided to hit that first note on the thick E string at the beginning here with your first finger, you could try that. And then you'll discover you have no fingers left to actually hit this one down here. You're stuck. You can't get back to that one. So you can't do that. I'm not going to go through that in huge detail, but there are good reasons for which finger you use to hold down which note in a chord. It's so your hand is relaxed and capable of holding down all of the notes. Anyway, that first note on the E string on the 3rd fret, we're going to hold down with our second finger. I'll do it to the side to avoid giving you a rude symbol there. With our second finger, like that. Then the next string, the 2nd fret on the A string, we hold down with our first finger, like that. Then open string, meaning we hold down nothing. And those last two on the 3rd fret, we hold down with our 3rd finger on the B and our 4th finger on the G, like that. Okay, just rewind that if you need to go through it again, but that's the fingers you're using. Now, what you want to avoid is this. If the fingers lie flat like that, then you'll kind of sound like this. In fact, to be honest, you'll probably sound like that at first anyway, learning your first chords, but they will get better. What you want to do is let your elbow come out a bit, let your fingers come round a bit, so the fingers start to loop up. And they're not so lying horizontally, they're more vertically. What that will do is, it'll stop fingers accidentally touching the string next to them, which will cause them to mute the string next to them like that. You want to keep them up like this, so they're only holding down the note they're supposed to and not touching the other strings. And then, if you also get a bit of a, it could be you're just not holding the note down hard enough. But if you hold it down hard enough, and you've got the fingers looped up so nothing's touching any string apart from the one it's supposed to, you should get a nice, like that. All of the strings coming out, like that. Okay, that's a G chord. So practice, putting that on, taking that off, putting that on, taking that off. Not a whole lot of fun, I will admit, but that's starting with the G chord. The next one I'm going to show you, and this might seem a bit weird, is C add 9. So the second chord you're going to learn is a complicated sounding one. Why is that? Why aren't I just learning a C? It's for ease of playing, ease of practice. Because all you do to go from G to C add 9, these two fingers stay exactly where they are, and these two fingers just go down a string. So watch. Like that. See? From the top to that. The other fingers stay where they are. That's going from G to C add 9. Just that. So if you look at the chart, you can see what finger is on what string. Now, see how there's an X on the first string. Now we have to stop a note coming out. How do we do that? We do not avoid strumming the string. That will end up messing with your strumming when you learn strumming. All you do is this. Now have a look. if this finger here was holding down this note, but it was careless enough, and on purpose careless enough, to be touching the side of the string above ever so slightly, that would stop that top string coming out. So, recapping, the second finger which you have on the third fret of the A string, just stop and think about that for a moment, look at the chart, A string, the second string, the third fret, you should have your second finger on it. While pushing down that note, let it just carelessly touch the side of the top string, the E. Never mind that boing boing harmonic noise. It stops that note coming out, which means now when we strum, we don't have to carefully strum from here. We can just go like that, and we don't have a problem. That note's not coming out. So you can practice going from G to C add 9. Now that alone probably sounds like 100,000 songs that you've heard before. All sorts of things come to mind, from Green Day to, believe it or not, Poison. I think that sounds like Every Rose Has Its Thorn. Yeah, it's a very popular progression. The reason I've taught you C add 9 is because it's easy to play from G. So you're going to get that immediate satisfaction of being able to get on top of your first few chords a lot quicker. And fun is everything to keep you practicing. Got to keep it fun. But also, in 99% of songs, I mean virtually everything, you can substitute C with C add 9 and it will sound good. It's just a little flavor on the chords. If you've got a song that's supposed to go to C and you do C add 9 instead, it's a subtle little flavor that is never badly out of place. So the overwhelming amount of the time, you can replace a C chord with a C add 9 and it sounds good. So learning it because it's easy first up, I think, is a good idea. Keeps the fun up, keeps the progress up, makes you happy. Third chord we're going to learn today, E minor. Goes very well with G and C add 9, and it's easy to play. Let's pull up the chart. First thing you notice, no X's at the top, so no strings are being muted. A hell of a lot of open strings, meaning nothing's held down with the left hand, and only two notes that are getting held down. That would be the second fret of the A, which is the second thickest string, definitely worth learning the names of your strings. Then the second fret of the D, the third string, just those two, like that. And now if you sort of loop the hand up, so I've got the first finger on the A string, second finger on the D string. So one on top, two underneath, like that. Loop them up so they're not touching anything else. You should have a nice E minor chord like that. Okay, in terms of practicing that, and there are some songs in the world, but not an overwhelming amount of songs you can get out of just those three chords. And it is tempting to throw a D chord in, but not in this one. In the next lesson, which is coming very, very soon, fast on the tails of this one, where we learn some follow-up chords and a song or two, then I'll throw in D. For now, I want you to have an easy experience of playing your first chords. Keep the joy and the progress high. So practice just strumming as many times as you want your G, getting all the notes to come out. Then go to your C add 9. Then you could go back to G if you want, or to E minor. You could change the order of them however you want. Then down to E minor. Even just G to E minor. Don't forget C add 9. And then we finish on G. Okay. If you get doing what I'm doing there and it sounds pretty good and you're pretty comfortable and you got these 3 chords down, in the next video I'm going to point you to my beginning strumming video. If you get to that point in this video and you want to start to get a bit of a strum that isn't too complicated but is very basic, I do all my videos with very simplistic language aimed at the person who, first and foremost, aimed at the person who knows nothing about music, and then build it from there to every level of whatever you can imagine. But if you feel like you're in the need for a strum, I'll put the link below. Watch the strumming video. It'll just enable you to put a little bit of a nice feel to it, if you're up to that point. I'm suspecting before I get the next video out, you'll still be trying to just get the notes to come out in your chords. And that's fine. We've all been there. We've all been there. It's tricky at first. Just make sure you've got a good playable guitar as well. If you're staring at something where the strings are a good centimeter off the neck, then yes, this is going to be hard. You don't need an expensive guitar, but you need one that is reasonably playable. So have a look at your guitar, maybe take it to the guitar shop and say, is this as playable as it can be? Or am I fighting uphill here to be able to do my chords? Okay, the next video is really soon on the back of this. It's just some more chords, a song or two, getting you going. But practice these 3 for now, and I will see you soon.